At 6 o'clock in the evening on the 26th of July 1952, a royal yacht left Alexandria harbour. On board were the King of Egypt, his wife, and their baby son, who was 6 months old. The army that had deposed him that morning was standing on the quay. It played the Egyptian national anthem, and it fired a 21-gun salute as he went. He was 32 years old, and he had been king for 16 years. He was reported to have complied with the order to leave almost in tears. He took 204 trunks with him. Remember that number because it is the last inventory of the Egyptian monarchy that anybody bothered to make. Everything else stayed where it was. 18 months later, the new republic sold it. The sale ran in a palace outside Cairo over 6 weeks to buyers who flew in from all over the world. The baby on the yacht was the last king of Egypt. He was proclaimed on the day his father left, and he reigned for 11 months without knowing it. He is alive today in a house near Geneva with the Egyptian royal standard on a stand in his study. He speaks French, which is his first language. His Arabic, by his own account and everyone else's, is broken. This is what happened to the Egyptian royal family after the revolution. The coup came 3 days before the yacht sailed. On the 23rd of July, 1952, the free officers moved on Cairo under Mohammed Naguib and Gamal Abdel Nasser. Tanks and riflemen took up position before daybreak, and there was no resistance anywhere. The trigger was smaller than the event. The week before, Farouk had blocked Naguib's appointment as war minister and given the job to a colonel instead. That colonel's chief distinction, as the New York Times put it at the time, was that he was married to the king's sister. Naguib found himself posted to an obscure command a long way from the capital. He decided to take the country instead. On the 26th, with the Ras El Tin Palace surrounded, Farouk was told to abdicate and go. He did. Then the officers did something that still does not quite make sense. They proclaimed his son king. Ahmed Fuad had been born on the 16th of January that year, so he was 6 months old. His father's stated hope was that stepping aside might calm the opposition and that the baby could unify the country. What Fuad actually got was a regency with nothing in it. Power sat with the cabinet, then with a regency body under Prince Mohammed Abdel Monem. The sources are blunt about that body. It had no actual powers because those had been taken by the Revolutionary Command Council. In September, the body was dissolved and Monem became sole regent, still with no powers at all. On the 18th of June 1953, Egypt was declared a republic for the first time in its history. Naguib became its first president, and the infant king was deposed. He had reigned for 11 months, and he was 17 months old. The palaces were still full when he went. 6 weeks after the yacht sailed, an Egyptian army captain rolled back the gates of the Koubbeh Palace. He let a group of Western reporters in. What they found was less a treasury than a hoard. One of them wrote that someone had crammed possessions into the rooms feverishly and indiscriminately, as if to ward off loneliness. About 3 months after the deposition, Sotheby sent a small team to Cairo. They persuaded the new government that these embarrassing storehouses were best handed over for disposal. In December 1952, a contract was signed. It took over a year to prepare. 5 catalogues were compiled, 2 of them the size of a telephone directory. 20,000 copies went out around the world. More than 100 staff were hired, and there were full dress rehearsals. The sale opened on the 12th of February 1954 in the main reception room of the Koubbeh Palace. It ran until the 28th of March. The man who opened it was Bimbashi Mahmoud Yunis, the general supervisor, and Al-Aram printed what he said the next morning. "In the name of God and in the name of the Republic," he said, "we open this auction. In it, the artifacts acquired by the king with the blood of the people are being sold today. Their price returns to its rightful owner, the people. Then he thanked the foreigners who had come from all over the world to buy them. The money was wanted for a hydroelectric dam and for land reform, and the Egyptian government kept one category back and refused to sell it. That is the detail that tells you they knew exactly what they were doing. They kept the Egyptian antiquities and they sold the hobbies. The hobbies took 6 weeks to get through. There was a stamp collection, one of the most important ever sold in public, and 60 expert philatelists came to bid on it. There was a coin collection that had at one point held a 1933 double eagle and a pair of 1913 Liberty nickels. After that, it stops being a collection and starts being a list. A 100-blade knife and tiny telescopes with sprays of diamonds set into them. A solid gold replica of the Suez lighthouse, 11 inches high. A diamond-encrusted handle for a fly whisk. One of Fabergé's Easter eggs, of the kind the last Tsar used to give his wife. A Nazi field marshal's baton, and an 18-carat gold bottle holder still holding a bottle of Pepsi-Cola. There was also a golden box, 3 inches long. You pressed a button and it asked you a question, and then it answered the question to music. Time magazine printed the exchange. The question was, what lasts for too short a time? The answer it gave was love. Thousands of ordinary Egyptians paid 50 piastres each to file through the palace library and look at it. A Sotheby's man called John Singh spent 11 months valuing it and never met its owner. He had formed a view anyway, and he gave it to a reporter. Farouk, he said, had an absolute passion for completion. He loved costly little machines that would work. He preferred small objects he could carry and fondle. He was a child in many ways. Times correspondent ended the story with a line no auction house would have printed. The last time a collection like this went under the hammer, he wrote, so did the head of its owner, Louis XVI of France. Farouk was not in Cairo to watch any of it. He was in Italy, and he was busy. He went first to Capri and stayed, as it happens, at a hotel called the Eden Paradiso, then Rome, and eventually Monaco. In the same week the auction of his possessions opened in Cairo, he was in Italy, brushing off a bill collector. The man had come about an unpaid $5,000 underwear bill. The British High Commissioner in Cairo had written a report on him to the Foreign Office back in 1937, when Farouk was 17. It called him uneducated, lazy, untruthful, capricious, irresponsible, and vain, though with a quick, superficial intelligence and a charm of manner. That was a British colonial official's verdict on an Egyptian king, and it should be read as one. But nothing he did after 1952 argued against it. He is said to have remarked, at some point in the exile, that there would soon be only 5 kings left in the world. The kings of England, and of diamonds, hearts, spades, and clubs. On the 18th of March 1965, 5 weeks after his 45th birthday, he was having a midnight supper in a restaurant in Rome. His companion was a woman of 22. He collapsed at the table and died. The cause was reported as a heart attack. There were rumors in the press that Egyptian intelligence had poisoned him, and no evidence for it has ever emerged. His son believes he was poisoned, and his son was 13 at the time. Fuad had seen him 2 or 3 times a year, no more. He has said since that his father died at exactly the point he needed him most. Fuad did not grow up with his father, and he did not grow up with his mother either. When the family scattered, he and his 3 half-sisters were sent to Switzerland, while Farouk settled in Italy. His mother, Queen Nariman, went back to Egypt in 1953 because she wanted a divorce. Farouk insisted the boy stay abroad. He was 2 years old, and he stayed abroad for the rest of his childhood. He would not live in Egypt again, and he has not lived there since. In 1958, Egypt stripped him of his citizenship at the age of 6. The part of this that nobody expects is what happened to his sisters. They were daughters of a king, raised in palaces on the Nile, and all three of them went out and got jobs. Ferial worked in the hotel business, Fawzia worked as a translator, and Fadia worked as an interpreter. Fuad went into real estate in France and, by his own account, did some good deals. He married a French woman whom the papers insisted on calling Queen Fadila. They had 3 children in Paris, and they were divorced after 20 years. The divorce and the business trouble together put him into a deep depression. He moved to Switzerland to be near his sisters and was estranged from his own children for several years. Then he watched all 3 sisters die inside 7 years. He was too ill to travel to Egypt for his mother's funeral, and he did not go. Fuad has 2 passports, and neither of them is quite the one you would expect. When Farouk died in 1965, the boy was 13 and effectively unprotected. Prince Rainier of Monaco and his wife Grace guaranteed him protection, and Rainier granted him a Monegasque passport. The name printed in it is His Royal Highness Prince Ahmed Fuad Farouk. A small Mediterranean principality was willing to put a title on a document that Egypt had spent 6 years erasing. He became friends with Rainier in adulthood and spent his summers in Monte Carlo for years. The principality that took in a stateless Egyptian teenager was the one run by a family that had held onto its throne. The second passport came from Egypt, and it came in 1974. That was 16 years after the same state had taken his citizenship away. He uses it, and he goes back, though not often, when he says the desire to see the Nile becomes too strong. Under Mubarak, the arrangement was simple. He would tell the president he was coming, the state would provide his personal security, and he would stay in a hotel. That is the whole of the modern relationship between Egypt and its royal house. A phone call, a security detail, and a hotel room. He has been careful, all his life, never to ask for more. He says he has no political ambitions, and that any move in that direction would be misinterpreted. A Swiss Egyptian who has known him for years put it more bluntly. Young Egyptians do not know who Ahmed Fuad is. The house is about half an hour outside Geneva, and it looks across vineyards towards the lake. Inside, it is a museum of a country he does not live in. There are paintings and busts of his father in the rooms. There is an Egyptian sitting room. There are portraits of his ancestors. His favorite is of Muhammad Ali, the Albanian soldier who founded the dynasty in the first place. In the corner of the study, there is the Egyptian royal standard on a stand, with a smaller Egyptian flag beside it. He advises a Swiss watchmaker, and he says he depends in large part on the generosity of Saudi Arabia. A Frenchwoman looks after him. He is the head of the royal house of Egypt. He is also, by any ordinary measure, a private man, in reduced circumstances, with a very good view. He gave an interview once in which he said, "The thing that sits underneath all of this. In Egypt," he said, "I was living in a gilded cage. Here, I am a free man. You are entitled to be unconvinced." He was 6 months old in the cage, and he has spent 70 years outside it. The man who chose the cage for him was his father. His father sailed out of Alexandria with 204 trunks and left the rest for the auctioneers. His son keeps one photograph in his wallet. It is of himself, as a baby, in his father's arms. That is what is left of it. Not the palace, not the stamps, not the golden box that knew the answer about love. One photograph, in a wallet, in Switzerland.